Hi guys, you're in the right place if you want to learn how to draw by understanding what you're looking at rather than breaking things down into shapes. And today we're going to be doing this little dog head. This is a Havanese, and a big thank you to my friend Sandra for letting me use this photo of her beautiful little Winnie. So what you need is a scrap piece of paper and a pen that hopefully doesn't leave a lot of ink or blotches, I mean, when you do your shading, because this is, all shading today, okay? So get your scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to use a black pen today, and I want to start with the eye. So what you'll see how wide the sketch is going to end up. So just wherever you start on your paper, make sure that you've got space on either side. And if you tend to go a little bit big, then make sure you account for that. Okay. So this is going to be a real treat. But anyway, let's just see how we can manage. And if possible, go smaller rather than larger, because if you look at the size of this eye compared to the entire sketch, you know that if you start out too big, this is too big, then you're going to need a big piece of scrap paper. And anyway, these are just my delay tactics. Okay, so let's start here. You can see it's with the angle, it's an oval, and there is tissue around it. So let's start with a smaller kind of oval. Oh, I just said that we don't break things down into shapes, and now I'm all of a sudden talking about ovals. Well, you caught me. Okay, so don't make the whole thing solid black, okay? Because even though this eyeball is in shadow, it does show some of the reflected, like different shades of black in its with the light on the lens. Okay, and now just do a small amount of tissue in the eye socket. Just a small amount of tissue around the eyeball. And the trick today is just to be able to keep ourselves oriented with where we are in our sketch, because I just want to move from feature to feature, not get super screwed up. Okay, now see, this is her little eyebrow, this little muscle there. So you're doing an eyebrow, so make it little. Okay, just gently shade in a little bit of her eyebrow. Keep things nice and small. And this is shading on the side of the skull, like her, on the bridge of her nose, right? Where it curves. Little bit of shading. We're going to be super careful, nice and slow. Now we've got, this is the depth of the eye socket, and the light is shining this way, so all this fur on this, like around her eye and on the bridge of her nose, has cast this shadow. So So that's what that is. We don't want to do a lot of shading. We just want to make sure that we don't get too screwed up. We want to just keep ourselves oriented with where we are in our sketch. Now it looks like my pen's not laying down any color, but that's okay. I know where I am, that's it. Okay. Let's go to the center of the face. And now this is the eyebrow around the other eye. So just see how far across you need to go in relation to the size of the eye that you've started with. It was cloudy when I thought, oh, this is a good idea to do a video. And now the sun's come out and cast this shadow. I get this other eye in. Well, you guys need to look at the reference photo and not really see what I'm doing, so having a few lines on my desk I don't think really matters. In fact, I know it doesn't. Okay, see how large that patch of white is? It's reflected on her eye. So make sure you leave a great big patch of white. You can always make it smaller later if you need to. It's better to have it larger. And then also we've got a little bit of tissue that shows around this eye. A fair amount actually. So let's just get that in as well. And turn your paper so you can get the shading proper, like the shading in the right direction, because it's reflecting the fur too, right? The way the fur would grow. Okay, we can come back and do more later. Let's go down the bridge of her nose onto the muzzle. I'm doing this little patch here. So just try to gauge, if we just follow the shading down, and then you don't want the nose to be too low down, okay? And this is the nostril, the canal. Which is why it's so dark. we'll just have different tones on the nose, okay? Because it's just the way the black is being reflected, like by the light, and being kind of like altered. And remember, it's moist and everything, so it's not just a solid little nose. Okay, so these are the tissue for the lips going down to the mouth. Just keep those really, really small because there's little bits of white fur. It's breaking that up. And I'd like you to keep the mouth nice and small. Can always make it bigger later if you have to. But if you're familiar with these dogs, they're quite cute and lots of expression in the face and cute little mouth. So I want to keep that small if we can, okay? Good. Now how about we just do a little bit of shading around the muzzle. Let's see at the side of the mouth there. And a little cheek. And this is a little bit of the shadow of all the fur on that side of the muzzle. Oh, I turned my page and I shaded that all wrong because this comes down. I'll fix that later because I'm getting screwed up. Okay, let's just do a little bit of shading around the muzzle. Try to keep my fingers off everything so that you guys can work away on whatever section that you'd like. And these little doggies have nice loose fur. So what we're sketching is all the shadow that is cast by the fur when it's all kind of like hanging down in different directions. It's a harder sketch today, eh? We'll just keep on track, see where you are. Be careful with your pen. Try to have some fairly good control. And we'll just add a little bit of shading here and there. Don't have to do everything. but just enough to sort of give the impression of what's going on. I don't really like what my pen's doing there. Okay, I'm going to go back up and do the shape of the skull. And this is just her, at the top of the, above the eyebrow, shape of the skull around the eye socket. And on the side of the head, up here where we get into the top of the head and the curve of the side. And then the loose fur of the ear. But we're not sketching the fur, right? We're sketching the shadow parts cast by the white fur. So if you're sketching or shading the bottom of the ear, see where it comes down to your shadow for the eye. So I don't want to take mine down too much. Okay, so we don't really have much to go on here, do we? This has to come down lower on mine. Now, this is the center of the bridge of the nose. And then we've got some shading out from this eye socket. And then here, we've got the side of the skull and the ear behind. This is the side of the skull. Now we know that this muscle is duplicated on this side. Just want to take this shading out. I don't even want to look at the camera to see if you guys can, if I'm coloring or shading inside or outside the lens, because honestly, I think you guys are better on your own. But I like your company. Okay, see how this is the top of the skull, and then this is down to behind the eye socket, and then this is the cheek, and then this is the muzzle. So don't go straight down, okay? Make sure we've got some curvature there, and then this is going to be the bottom of the ear. See how the bottom of the ear is like around the nose? And if we can go up and sort of try to, I'm too kind of scared to commit to the top of the head and all the little foo-for-all that's going on up here. no joke, this is kind of exactly how messy these little dogs look. Sorry, Sandra. I don't think she'd appreciate Winnie being called messy. Boy, I feel more comfortable just shading this ear, so this is where I want to hang out for a little bit. And then the side of the head. And then in for the muzzle. Boy, doesn't she look like she's having a bad hair day? I think I've got the skull too wide here. I'm going to have to bring this in, which is okay because this shading is on the curvature of the ear. So what I can do is I can pull this in easily and just pretend it's more shading on the ear. It sucks because this is kind of like what I wanted to focus on was just doing all the shading, but what we've got to do is the actual outside lines, like the perimeter, you know what I mean? I don't really want to commit to the bottom of the ear just yet. If you do, go ahead. I want to fix all this shading here so that I have better definition around the side of the face and the muzzle. Now, I want to work on around the mouth. And you know what, you guys? I want you to be super careful doing this shading. So see, like she's got this tiny, cute little itty-bitty mouth. And then what I want you to do is be very, very careful with the way you put the border of her chin in, okay? So this right here is the bottom of her chin, and the light is catching her neck that's way at the back. But I don't want you to draw a line because that's not the way it goes, okay? So turn your paper if you need to, and I just want you to have this very, very, start with her lip. Let's go down a little bit. What I'm trying to say is I don't want you to screw up the bottom of her mouth. Because this fur is really kind of short and flat, and is that too far? Because this is like the cuteness factor too, right? If we have her nice, cute little mouth and her cute little chin. Which is not to say your whole sketch doesn't look super cute, but the chances are we're all kind of beginners, aren't we? Okay, so see, I totally screwed this up here, this little dimple thing with her little lip. So I got to take this down here. Gosh, making it worse. You know what I'm thinking about right now is how, like, we've done so many bird sketches that if we were if we were doing a bird sketch right now, we would know how to fix it. But since it's a doggy and we haven't done many dogs, we're kind of like harnessed to the reference photo. Like, we can't wing it, you know what I mean? And gosh, I sort of feel like I want to. Now, see, okay, so her muzzle on this side, it's got to be balanced. I'm really nervous about like committing this little line in here, and I don't want to. I don't want to. Okay, I think everybody should just work on getting things sort of like back on track. Well, I mean, not back on track, but you know what I mean? Just like choose a section and just darken where it needs to be darkened. One thing we can do is work on the contrast, okay? And you know how the fur grows? It kind of goes like out and around the muzzle. It's all like fluffy. These are kind of like fluffy little doggies. So we can use that knowledge and just work on. We don't have to be tied too closely to the reference photo. Seriously, we don't. We know how the fur is all like loose and some of it is in shadow, and we're just adding these shadows to our sketch. We know how the muzzle is going to go on this side. Darken the bridge of her nose a little bit and work on the shading of her forehead. Now, one thing you can do if you want, if it's necessary, is change the size of the eyes. If they need to be bigger or closer together or whatever, you can work on that. As you can imagine, I did a practice sketch of this one first. This is like a real challenge for us. So my apologies. But in my practice sketch, I had the eyes too close together. So yeah, I just kept working the sketch and moved them further and further apart. So it's possible to do that if you need to. And if your sketch is very distorted from the reference photo, then what you can do is just spend more time looking at your sketch and fix it in a way that makes sense, just using the reference photo for features and understanding how the little doggy's put together. And if you do that, then you'll have a good understanding of what sort of, where the shading should go. How the fur falls. And if you can do things like incorporate that in your sketch, you'll be pretty close to getting something that is okay. See, we know we've got depth of the eye socket here. Oh, you know what? I want to go back and like totally fix this shading. Actually, there's a fair amount of fixing that we can do here. This foot of the tripod is always in the way. And we have the curvature of the skull, so you can just make sure that you get that in. And that also defines where the ear has come up against the side of the head. Are you like me, thinking that you can't wait for this to be over? Okay, so even though all this side of the head is in light, and so that we're not getting nearly as much shadow as on this side, we got to do something so that she doesn't look like we quit halfway through. So we could sort of we know how the top of the skull goes. We know how the ear connects to the head. because we can see it on this side. So what I do want to do is just sort of like define a little bit better this, because we got the forehead and then it goes in at the top of the skull and then out around the cheek, and I don't want to turn off my little thing that's falling out of my ear. So I don't want her muzzle to look too wide on this side. Must be thinking, oh, what the heck am I shading when there's no color on this side for the ear? I don't really know what to do. How's that for the tutorial leader? I don't really know what to do. Okay, so see how I don't like this curve on my sketch? I have to take it in more just to show more the shape of the skull. Take it in above the eye socket, and then it comes out around the cheek. And then further out a little bit for the muzzle. How do I maybe try to going like that way? Okay, I think I'm just going to spend some time fixing her up. A lot of time. I'm just adding a bit more shading to show how the fur is sort of lying different directions on the head. Did you commit to the length of the ears? There I go again, shading upside down. I'm doing this patch right here. And then I think I want to clean this up a little bit. So she does look a little bit more finished. Now, we really should do something about the neck, okay, you guys? Because otherwise I think she's going to look a little weird if we just are stopping at the bottom of her chin. So what we could do is just this down a little bit. From here, I don't like the way I've done her muzzle too big over here. Let's just try to do a little bit. Of her neck. I have some definition on the bottom of her chin. And then just a little bit where the fur is lying in, I don't know what the heck direction, but oh, blotchy pen, I don't want that. Let's do a little bit more shading around her muzzle. And between the eyes. And on this side of the muzzle as well. See, I've left this nice and dark around the perimeter. I just want to sort of maybe tone down a little bit of the lens. No, she's not too bad. This is where I've done the tissue. I've sort of lost the definition there between the eyeball itself and the tissue around it. I just want to try to darken this up a little bit. where the lens is. Always do as much contrast as you can because it really makes a big difference to your sketch. And if the mouth that you've drawn, like remember how I said I wanted it to be small? So if you've done it too small, go back and just make it a smidge bigger. If you have to, or if it seems appropriate to. Okay, so I think we're basically, I mean, we're kind of there, yeah? Like, for what we wanted to do today, it was just follow the features around the sketch and add the shading so that we could get an idea of the little doggy's head. And you know what I don't like what I've done with this. I just want to fix her forehead. The shape, the top of the head. The forehead's actually narrower than that. So if you need to adjust any of your lines, and that fur really does grow in all sorts of different directions with these little doggies. There's quite a few of them around the neighborhood, so they're quite common. Just want to sort of define this curvature here a bit better. Side of the face. The ear comes down. Man, I kind of feel like, okay, we got through it. Time for ice cream. Does this eye look too small to you? I think I'm just going to make the tissue around it a little bit bigger. Which will let me make the eye itself a little bit larger. This is where you got to make sure that your pen doesn't start dropping splotches. Because you don't want to ruin all your work by having your pen start crapping out on you. See, if you just keep shading, you can make it worse or you can make it better. Obviously, I'm still thinking about it. Need to do more on our little muzzle. And of course, I have to do some shading upside down. It wouldn't be an Elaine video if I didn't have my shading upside down. Well, what do you think? I wish that I just want to see if I can sort of see this foot of the tripod's in the way again. A little bit more around her muzzle. Just sort of fix, and then with her neck. I'm not too sure what direction this fur grows in, but let's pretend it grows in this direction. All I want to do is just have a little bit with her neck that's different from underneath her chin. Is anybody going to email me their sketch? So I can see how well you're doing. Anybody who picks up a pen and keeps me company is already doing well. Or if you found somebody better to follow. The point is that you're sketching. That's what's great, right? I've made this too long. What the heck? So now am I just making it worse? See how you just have to keep going and going and going? Because that's what all the shading does. It gives the contours, shows you how the oh man, how the heck? I've totally buggered up the top part of her skull. I'm sorry, Sandra. But I think I should quit here because I don't really. This does need to be. Yeah. You know what? Let's limit the damage. All right. So you guys have been stellar, as usual. Just keep shading your sketch. It'll come up. And you know that I can't, for the thumbnail that I take, I've got to make sure that I, like when I stop, that's when I stop, because that's when I have to do the thumbnail. So I got to be kind of like super duper happy with it, or sort of like acceptably happy with it. Otherwise, I don't want to cheat and keep working on it. Goodness knows we can't have cheating on the internet, can we? Okay. I'm just going to wreck it if I keep going. I'm going to leave her like this. And then I'm going to send the picture to my son to see if he says it's too crappy to upload. Anyway. Well, you guys, I don't know if asking you if you enjoyed it is the correct thing to say, because I think this has been kind of like a little bit more work than what we're accustomed to. But if you stuck with me, congrats. Okay, so thanks as always for your company. I'd love it if any of you decided to send me a picture of what you've done. And let's go back to birdies. Okay. Thanks for your company. I'll see you next time.